Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we tear through your source material to give you the essential knowledge and fast. Today, we are diving into an NBA matchup that, on paper, it was supposed to be a heavyweight title fight.
Right. Boston Celtics, Denver Nuggets.
Exactly. But the sources reveal that, well, due to a massive health imbalance, this has turned into a high-stakes tactical exercise. It tells us more about team architecture than a simple final score ever could.
That's the perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
We're extracting the essential knowledge here on Team Form, the injury implications, betting trends, all of it. Our mission today is to understand precisely how the absence of one single player,
And not just any player,
a reigning MVP, no less, how that can completely flip the dynamic of a championship-level contest. We have to, dissect all the second-order effects of that injury.
It's the ultimate study in contrast, really. We've got Boston fully loaded, operating like a cohesive machine, and they're facing a legitimate title contender that has just been strategically gutted by circumstance. It's genuinely jarring to see.
It creates such a stark line in the sand, and the sources give us this crystal-clear insight into the analytical reality of the game. And that reality is all about continuity versus, well, collapse.
So let's start right there with that health disparity. If we look at the tail of these two teams, Boston is absolutely humming right now.
That's surging.
Surging is the word. They've won 5 of their last 6 games, and the reporting really emphasizes not just their offense, but their total domination on the defensive glass.
And you can't talk about Boston's momentum without zooming in on the player who's anchoring that surge.
Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown, exactly. He is playing at what the consensus is calling an MVP level. He's not just scoring, his playmaking, his aggression. He's leading the offense, especially when Jayson Tatum's on the bench.
And that ability to maintain elite performance when a star rests, that speaks volumes about their whole system.
It does. It shows their preparedness.
And that preparedness really defines their resilience, doesn't it? The sources highlight that Boston's scoring is incredibly balanced. Balance is the key word. We see these reliable contributions from Derrick White, who's having a fantastic year.
A quiet one, but fantastic.
Right. And then you get the energy of Payton Pritchard off the bench, the dependable work from Hugo González. They are deep, they're healthy, and everybody knows their job.
Which brings us to the other locker room, where the picture is, frankly, disastrous for Denver.
Yeah.
The biggest news, the devastating blow that impacts their entire organizational identity is Nikola Jokić.
The MVP.
The reigning MVP, the engine of that entire offense, is out for about 4 weeks with a knee injury. Losing him isn't just losing a scorer, it's losing the architect of everything they do.
And that single absence, as horrific as it is made worse by the fact that it's not just him. The injury bug has bitten deep.
That's the critical detail here. It's also Aaron Gordon. It's Christian Braun. Jonas Valančiūnas is out or playing hurt.
So multiple starters and key rotation players are gone.
Gone. They aren't just trying to replace an MVP. They're trying to build a functional rotation out of players who usually only see minutes and blowouts. Against a team like Boston, that thinning of the roster is just lethal.
Now, hold on a second. We did see the Nuggets manage to pull out that overtime win against Philadelphia, even with all these injuries.
Right.
Doesn't that prove they have the mental toughness, the grit to stay competitive? What if they just run on adrenaline for one night?
I mean, you're right. That win confirms their incredible toughness. You have to salute that effort. But it also serves as a perfect definition of the limit of what they can do without Jokić.
Okay.
Sustained, high-level execution, especially in a structured half-court offense, is simply impossible when you're missing that much creativity.
Yeah.
You can win one game fueled by adrenaline and, some hot shooting.
But the odds aren't in your favor.
Exactly. The analytical forecasts tell us that kind of effort just doesn't consistently translate against a disciplined machine like Boston over 48 minutes.
That makes a lot of sense. So with the health disparity established, let's look at the tactical side. Beyond just lost points, what's the strategic vacuum created by Jokić being gone?
They lose their operating system. It's that simple. Jokić is the central processing unit for that team.
Right.
Without him, Denver loses elite playmaking and, crucially, efficiency in their half-court sets. I mean, think about it. He's maybe the best passer and low-post threat in the entire league. He dictates the geometry of the court. He creates passing angles that don't exist for other players. His gravity draws 2 or 3 defenders, and that's what gets everyone else wide-open threes.
So without that central gravity, the framework doesn't just, degrade a little bit, it collapses.
Collapses, and it forces them to adapt on the fly.
And what does that forced, simplified adaptation look like against a team like the Celtics?
It looks like desperation, honestly. Denver is forced to rely much more heavily on isolation plays, tough jump shots, and just hoping for a huge output from their bench. The lack of that interior threat means Boston's defenders don't have to worry about the post-entry pass or the need to double-team anyone.
And that's the key analytical insight right there. It changes Boston's entire defensive scheme.
Precisely. Boston's coach can now focus completely on containing the perimeter, running Denver off the three-point line. And you get these defensive lapses from Denver because their simplified offense doesn't generate easy buckets, and that leads to more transition for Boston.
So it actually might lead to a higher scoring game.
It's counterintuitive, but yes. By losing Jokić and becoming less efficient, Denver's games can actually get sloppier and faster, which benefits a team like Boston.
And this structural deficiency in Denver is really why the comparison to Boston is so valuable here.
It is.
Boston's offense uses strong pace, spacing, and most importantly, ball movement from multiple threats. They don't rely on just one guy to start the action.
Boston's system is modular. They have 4 or 5 reliable threats who can initiate the offense, which makes them incredibly resilient.
So if one guy has an off night,
If Jaylen Brown has a tough shooting night, Derrick White can step up. Pritchard can step up. If Denver loses Jokić, it's like removing the main load-bearing pillar of a building.
the whole thing comes down.
The whole thing. If Boston loses one of its key players, the load gets distributed. That difference in team architecture is really the central lesson of this whole deep dive.
And this difference is exactly why the statistical trends and the betting signals are so unified in the source material. The numbers are just screaming in one direction.
The analytical projections couldn't be clearer. The Celtics are trending sharply upward,
Especially at home.
especially at home. You look at their record, they're 8-1 straight up in their last 9 home games. That's not just good, that's dominant.
And Denver's trajectory just confirms the damage from the injuries.
Yes. Denver's trending downward. They're 2-4 straight up in their last 6 games without the MVP. And on top of that, historical data in this specific series, even when Denver was healthy, it already slightly favored Boston against the spread.
So you combine that historical edge with the current health crisis.
And the trends just align perfectly. It's a clean sweep.
So if we pull all this together and look at the expert consensus, how overwhelming is the lean toward Boston? We're talking about models that are usually pretty conservative.
The models are not just leaning. They are, for all intents and purposes, unanimous. They're predicting a comfortable Boston victory. We've seen specific simulation data that projects a double-digit win for the Celtics. One model has a final score hovering somewhere around 123 to 111.
A 12-point projected margin is significant in the NBA.
It absolutely is. And the win probability forecasts back that up. One reliable site gave Boston about a 70% win probability.
And ESPN's model.
ESPN's model was even higher, clocking in at around 78%. When all the models agree that heavily, it tells you the advantages are foundational. They're not something you can overcome with just willpower.
So to synthesize it all, Boston is heavily favored because of 3 big factors. 1, their elite recent form. 2, a massive health advantage. And 3, the fact that Denver is strategically neutered without its MVP.
That's the perfect synthesis. But we have to address the competitive spirit, right?
Yeah.
Does Denver have any true nugget of hope to stay competitive?
I see what you did there.
What scenario allows them to pull off an upset, or at least make it a one-possession game in the 4th?
They need chaos. They have to disrupt Boston's rhythm.
Exactly. And they need 2 things to align perfectly. First, extremely high, relentless effort for all 48 minutes. And second, they need several role players to get unusually hot from 3. We're talking about guys like Jalen Pickett and Peyton Watson needing career nights.
High variance shots.
The highest variance. If they hit those shots, they could steal some momentum. But you're really just relying on probability to break your way against all the odds.
Okay, so let's nail down the key X factors for you, the listener. The specific things to watch on game night that will decide the margin of victory. Let's start with the Celtics.
For Boston, it all hinges on Jaylen Brown's ability to maintain that high-level execution. He has to control the tempo and quarters strong. They cannot afford lazy possessions that let a desperate Denver team creep back in with effort plays.
And the big separator?
The bench three-point shooting. If Boston's bench hits their shots early, that separation could turn this into a blowout by halftime.
And for Denver, beyond just pure hustle and hoping for hot shooting, who absolutely has to deliver.
If he's active, the entire gravity of the offense shifts to Jamal Murray. He becomes the sole primary playmaker.
Everything runs through him.
Everything. His shooting performance is the one thing that can generate enough points to keep them competitive if Murray struggles. The offensive load on the other role players will be just insurmountable against a top-tier defense that can now focus all its attention right on the perimeter.
This deep dive has really established a clear, analytically sound forecast. The prediction is firm: a Boston Celtics win. Given the imbalance, the models, it's likely going to be by a comfortable double-digit margin.
Yeah, especially if Boston controls that tempo early and forces Denver into a jump shooting contest. Based on the forecasts, the predicted score range puts Boston somewhere between 115 and 125 points. Denver will likely land in the 100 to 112 range.
A very tough test for that shorthanded Denver squad.
And a confirmation of form for Boston.
A decisive forecast. But before we wrap, let's go one layer deeper. Let's give our listeners something truly provocative to mull over that builds on all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beyond the final score, take a moment to reflect on what this deep dive tells us about the structure of modern NBA teams. We've seen how a team built around a single, central, generational pillar like Jokić can be destabilized when that one pillar is removed.
Right.
Now, you contrast that with the Celtics, who are built on this balanced, modular continuity where roles are clear and the load is shared.
The centralized genius versus the decentralized collective.
That's it, exactly. I encourage you to consider the intangible value here. Which team architecture is ultimately more resilient, more sustainable in the long run? That's the lasting lesson you learn when health meets scheme.
A perfect thought to end on. That's it for this deep dive. Thank you for joining us as we cut through the noise and deliver the essential knowledge. We'll catch you next time.